welcome to the Aaron Werner podcast on iCode Media. I want to share some reflections from my run recently, actually this morning, and want to give credit where credit's due. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you know I love my Oakley Meta Vanguards for running. What I love about them, in addition to everything else that I've shared, is that they'll record reminders for me. So if I've got thoughts during the run, I'll talk to my metas, and they'll record, thoughts and things that have gone through my head. And so today is this podcast rather is a summary of a lot of those thoughts that I recorded while I was on a run. Running is where I do most of my best thinking. I don't have my phone giving me notifications about emails or meetings, text messages. It's just me floating as I'm running through. I definitely get that runner's high, and I'm with myself and my thoughts. Often I'll listen to a book on tape or a podcast, but something that'll get me thinking. I don't run to get hyped up. I run to let the stress out and to think. So on today's run, I noticed three things that all pointed to the same lesson for me, a reflection. And these were all about progress, comparison, and who you run with. It was inspirational to me, very neat to look back and reflect. So certainly a great lesson for me, and hopefully you find some value in this as well. So the first was that small gains add up over time. So today I ran over 6 miles without stopping, and 6 months ago that would have been impossible. When I started getting back on my running journey, it was challenging. I remember when at one point in my life, I would not go for a run less than 10 miles when I was in my heavy Ironman training, but that all changed. And so 6 months ago when I started up again, going for a 2 or 3 mile run, I felt like I was going to die. So running 6 miles without stopping was a big deal. What I noticed is that my speed increased, but not huge. I still haven't caught up to my times when I was in my early 30s. But it definitely increased. But what improved significantly more was my endurance, my lactate threshold. So now I can run longer and harder without fatiguing. Certainly speed has gone up a little bit. And it made me stop to think that progress over time really comes through small little breakthroughs. It comes from being able to finish that first mile run. It probably was a run walk. Building that up to 2 miles, maybe increasing the speed just a little bit more, maybe adding some hills, but really the consistency over time that stack up, and those small little incremental steps that build up over time. During this process, and actually before this realization on my run today, I'd often compare myself to when I was running marathons and half marathons for funds, when those were training runs to get me ready for my Ironmans. It just didn't dawn on me that because life had changed and circumstances had changed, that I was no longer in that mindset. So I was comparing myself to where I was previously, and I'm in a completely different stage of life right now. I love where I am today. I love where I was then, but comparing the two, I think is completely inappropriate. In fact, a friend once told me that comparison is the thief of joy. And while I've enjoyed these last 6 months building my running endurance and getting back into running, there were plenty of times where I didn't enjoy it, and I think that's because of the comparison and the inappropriate comparison that I was making to a different me. So when we're looking at our life, when we're looking at the office, I do this with my own business. I remember how last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where there was a time when we were hyper successful, and I compare that to times now when things aren't as successful. It doesn't feel like it's as easy as it was then. And I don't know about you, the last end of 2025 was a little bit tough for the practice. It felt like patients weren't as willing to spend the money they were the first half of 2025. And some of that has carried over. So it has felt like the gains have been a little bit harder to come by, or it's taken us more work to get to those gains. But comparing ourselves to what we were before makes it even more difficult. I don't think we ignore what we were before. I don't think we ignore history, but we don't want to compare. I want to take those lessons and then reapply them. And I certainly want to pay attention to the progress that we're making along the way, just like I did on this last run and the realization that hit me. Another interesting observation I made on this run, the second, is that my pace changed based upon who was around me. So pace being running pace. And part of my run, I go along this path that's around a lake or reservoir. Beautiful scenery, little rolling path, and lots of people use it to bike or to walk or to jog or to run. And so you see lots of other people on this path. What I noticed is that when I was running near folks who were running slower than I was, especially if there was a group of them, as I came up past them, my pace would slow down. It wouldn't match theirs, but it would slow as I passed them, and it would stay slower as I moved past them. And I would have to consciously pick my pace back up when I realized that I was going slow. Again, another shout out to my favorite running glasses and that little red light in the corner that says when I'm going out of pace, whether it's too fast or too slow. So when that little red light would go on in the top of my right peripheral vision after passing a slower group, I'd realize that I had slowed down without consciously thinking about it. The opposite happened too, I noticed. When others were running faster than me and they passed me, I would start picking up my pace as I heard their footsteps, as they come next to me. And then as they went past me, my pace would continually increase as if I was trying to keep up with them or race with them. Again, until that little red light in my metas showed me that I was out of my prescribed pace. So what I found interesting about this observation was that I was on a training run. My Garmin tells me exactly what the pace should be. I try to stay within that prescribed pace. And so I had a plan, but when others were near me, they influenced the plan. And it was hard not to be influenced by them, I think, is what surprised me the most. So this made me think about my circle of friends, both in my private life and in my professional life, and those who I surround around me. Honestly, there's not a whole lot of difference between the two, certainly a handful, but my circle is fairly small of those that I have in my close circle of colleagues and friends. Let's call them my personal board of advisors. I don't go that far, but that's definitely how I think about them. And I'm really grateful that group keeps me on path. I have some in that group that run a little bit faster than I do, run figuratively speaking. Some that I run a little bit faster than in certain aspects, but in the full dynamic, we're constantly pushing each other and supporting each other. Not to go outside of our own pace, but just so that there's progress and moving forward. So when I think about my business, my optometric practice, I think about how we can surround ourselves with others who are going to help us achieve our goals. My goal on this training run was to run at the prescribed pace and run 9 miles at that prescribed pace and not vary it too much. It was just a steady, consistent run. I'm sure others that I came across on that running path were doing different types of workouts, maybe some speed workouts, maybe some were doing what I was doing and just getting lots of miles in at a consistent pace. But if I altered what I was doing to try to match them, even subconsciously, I was hurting myself in what I was trying to do. So really understanding the group you have around you and how they influence you, even subconsciously. And so it made me, like I said, go through and think about all the folks that I have in my life and how they affect me, what impact do they have on me, and how they change my behavior, how they change the way I think, how they influence the way I think. And I'm happy that that group all passed that conscious test of thinking about their impact on me. And I hope that I would pass that test back on them. And it's really important to protect that group, to protect those boundaries, to protect who you are, so that you surround yourself with people that are going to keep you on the prescribed pace that you were going. Now, if I was doing a sprint workout, I'd want a different set of group of people around me. I'd certainly want the faster ones. If I was going for a much longer, slower pace, I'd want a slower group, but really having just the right people to support you in what you are doing.
The Myopia Collective. CooperVision and the AOA have partnered in a groundbreaking initiative to change the way optometrists in the U.S. treat children with myopia. The purpose of the Myopia Collective is to rally the profession of optometry and its allies to interrupt the status quo and elevate the new standard of care for children with myopia. Every individual is encouraged to become a member of the collective. By joining, you commit to taking action to help slow the progression of myopia in children. You'll receive updates and information about the collective and its work in the fight against myopia, gain access to educational opportunities and resources offered by the collective, and hear from change agents, the ambassador optometrists selected to serve as advocates for community and policy change that facilitates the mission of the collective. Scan the QR code or click on the link in the show notes to join the collective today.
In the past, our focus revolved around prescribing MacuHealth or MacuHealth Plus to patients at risk of macular degeneration, while also recommending it to collegiate and professional athletes for enhanced contrast sensitivity in sports performance. However, this year's introduction of the Life Meter has been a game changer. The Life Meter revealed a concerning truth. Many of my patients have alarmingly low skin carotenoid levels, indicating potential deficiencies in essential body tissues like the retina and brain. Supported by over 30 peer-reviewed publications, Life Meter's accuracy, consistency, and effectiveness has been demonstrated across 2,000 subjects with diverse backgrounds. With this newfound insight, I can now have meaningful conversations about carotenoid levels with all of my patients, even those who may seem outwardly healthy. To learn more about this empowering technology, feel free to contact your MacuHealth representative or click on the link in the show notes. Together, let's optimize patient care and elevate their well-being. And then the third realization ties to the one I just spoke about, and this was I'll call this the sprint versus marathon realization. So about 6 miles into my 9-mile run, a runner blew past me, and I've had runners pass me before and it didn't make a big deal. This one surprised me a little bit because this individual, and kudos to them for being out running, but they had poor running form. They're not that I'm the epitome of a good runner as far as form goes, but this was bad. They were definitely not in good health. They weren't good conditional. You can hear by how they were breathing. But they blew by me. They were moving significantly faster than I was. And I didn't think, hey, I'm 6 miles into my run. I am doing my own pace, good for them. I immediately started comparing myself, and the thought that passed in my head was, there's no way that dude is faster than me. There's no way that guy runs past me like he just did. And as I talked about in the last realization, my pace picked up. I pulled myself back to not sprint to catch up to him, but it bothered me that this person had blown past me and run past me as fast as they did, because I was comparing myself to them, because they were doing something different. After about 100 yards, this person stopped and bent over and took some big deep breaths. And I realized that they were doing a sprint workout. And I was not. I was doing the exact opposite of a speed workout. They were doing a speed workout. They were doing an aerobic workout to really try to push the VO2 max. I was doing an aerobic workout, trying to maintain my heart rate. And so it was just very, very different. If I was training for soccer, if I was training for sport, if I was training for sprints or short works, I would do a workout like this individual was doing, but I'm not. I'm training for a marathon. So I don't need those type of speed workouts. I do different types of speed workouts, but much longer distance type of work. So again, comparing yourself into what somebody's doing. How does this work in my optometric practice? I see startups all the time that have 30% year-over-year growth, that have just amazing, hyper-successful years. And it's hard not to look at them and say, how come I'm not getting that? Again, the comparison. When they're in the sprint phase of their practice, they're cold start, they're putting all their energy behind it, and they need to sprint because they need to really build up that practice. I'm in a different stage of our practice. We're not in sprint mode. We're in consistently build and maintain and be steady mode. Make certainly risks, but make calculated risks and make sure that they're impactful over a long time. So very different races that I am in my practice, in the stage of our practice, versus a cold start, which is also different than somebody who's probably looking to sell. We work with a lot of those practices through Vision Source. And each of those types of practices is running a different race. And so to make sure that we're not comparing ourselves to others, that we're running our race, we understand where we're at, and we should be cheering the others on, not like I did where I got upset that this individual had run past me, which I think is a normal human reaction, but I wanted to make myself aware of that so that next time my gut instinct isn't to try to compete with that person, but to cheer them on for what they're doing. So how does this all pull together? I think running is a wonderful metaphor for life. Running is a wonderful metaphor for business. And what my reflection of the last couple miles of this run were that my instinct is still to compare myself to how fast others are going, how far they're going, what their success is, and not compare myself to myself. That's where I see the progress. If over time, I was comparing myself to my 10-year-olds or myself 10 years ago, but I look at that as almost two different people. So when someone's launching quickly in their business, when somebody's growing quickly, when they post a big success, what I don't know is their strategy and their timeline and what they've been going through. I don't know what risk they took. I don't know their actual goal and what they're trying to achieve. Maybe I'm seeing somebody else's finish line when I'm just at the starting line of mine. Maybe I'm seeing somebody finish their race when I'm training. Two totally different aspects. They may be running sprints and I'm training for a marathon, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So these were great reminders for me on my run today. They were reminded me to look at the small gains and look at how they compound over time, to be steady in that compounding effect, to just show up, be consistent, and look to improve slightly. I don't want to do the same thing all the time. I want to improve a little bit every day, even if it's 1%, because those 1% improvements stack up over time. I want to make sure that the folks around me continue to influence me the way I want to be influenced. I can't keep them from influencing me, but I can choose who they are so that the influence is a positive influence and helps me get to where I want to go. So if I'm in life, I want to surround myself who are good husbands, good fathers, good grandparents, good business people with integrity and morals and ethics. I want to surround myself with good doctors who are taking good care of their patients, who are looking at what's new and what's developing and what the newest evidence says so that we can adjust accordingly. And I want to surround myself with people who are helping me become better at all of those things. And then I want to make sure that I'm running the right races. I want to make sure that I'm running a marathon, so I'm training for a marathon. I'm running a long-term game, and with the practice, I want it to be successful for my patients, for my team. And so I want to make sure that we're doing the right things, not for short-term gain, but for long-term gain and success and long-term health and well-being. Same thing for Vision Source, the work I do through there. I want to make sure that it's certainly that has an impact now, but it has a lasting impact, not just a short-term win and whatnot. So I'm running a marathon, right? I can't judge myself against somebody running a sprint. I just need to focus on what I am doing. So I appreciate you sharing and listening to this rumination from my run. If you're a runner or you do something like that, I think this will resonate with you. But I really enjoy the time I spend with myself in my head. I enjoy the technology I have with me to help me record and remember these thoughts. And hopefully some of this has an impact on you. Would love to know what you do, how you escape the day-to-day, and get time to think and what you think during those sessions and how that impacts you, what metaphors you see for your life. So reach out, let me know, and look forward to connecting next time.